Go ahead and get started. Alright, I told you that today you guys are going to have time to finish working on your shield, so if you needed to bring in any last minute materials, if you need to get anything together, you need to bring it in by today. Today's going to be the last full period that we'll be working on them. Any other time that you're going to spend working on them will just be minor time outside of, like, after we finish something. So today we're going to work on our shields. You're going to have your period to do that. I'll be showing another video. I'll have a video up for those people who are not working also, or who may not be directly involved in building a shield. Though most of you, the group, should be working on them. Even though only some of the individuals in your group are going to have shields, your group as a whole should be working together to make them come together. Okay? While you are working on these, like I said, I'll have a video playing. It should not get any louder in here than the video. I should still be able to hear it over top of your working. Okay? This one is on Gaul, on Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul. So, our Gauls, you will hopefully enjoy this. After the, tomorrow, so today we'll be working on shield. Tomorrow, when you guys come in, we're going to go over all of the key terms from your study guide. So you guys have all of the correct definitions, all of the thorough definitions from your study guide on the key terms. And then Wednesday, you guys are going to have a key terms quiz. I mentioned this earlier, that with the Greek chapter, I abandoned the key terms quiz because I was thinking that it was a little redundant. We had a key terms quiz, and then 2 days later we would have a test that had key terms in it. And you guys are scoring so well on the tests on the key terms, I felt like it was a little too much double dipping, and we probably didn't need to do that. But when we abandoned the key terms quiz, all of a sudden the scores on the test went way down, and mostly in the area of key terms. So, we're going to have a key terms quiz on Wednesday. On Thursday, we'll do a review game, and I'll put a review packet online, and on Friday, we have the test. Then you guys go away for spring break. When you come back, we're going to start talking about the next section of our next chapter on Rome. We still are going to be talking about Rome. This one's going to deal more with the Roman conquests and the spreading of Roman ideals and ideas. And that's when our little provinces here will start to work towards becoming part of the Roman Empire. Yes. Okay? And that's what's going to be going on when we get back from break. And we'll work on Rome for a little bit longer, probably another 2 weeks after that, and then we'll move into Islam and then finally into the Middle Ages. And that's where we'll end the year. So we're not that far away. We're in fourth quarter as of a couple days ago. Okay? All right. Quartermasters, please go next door and get your materials for your shields. Make sure if you need an assistant to carry all the things with you, please take an assistant with you. Everyone should be working today. If you're not working, you should be quietly watching the video. I'm going to go ahead and start it right now.
Rome's allies in Gaul seek aid against immigrants and invaders. Mission: attack and conquer forces of the Helvetii and Germanic tribes. Execution: in 58 BC, proceed to Gaul and conduct military operations with a force of 4 legions. Administration: at the direction of the Roman Senate. And in control, Julius Caesar. Welcome to Conquerors. I'm Captain Dale Dye. Today, the name Julius Caesar is synonymous with power. But in 58 BC, he was just another Roman politician. Now, that all changed when he went to Gaul. is France on today's maps. The sword, shield, and javelin were the backbone of Caesar's legions, but he understood that the hammer was mightier than the sword. It was with implements like this that his corps of engineers built the machinery of conquest. In 52 BC, Julius Caesar and his legions found themselves hunkered down inside an 11-mile ring of towers and defensive obstacles. They were under attack on two fronts, massively outnumbered and anxiously awaiting reinforcements. The Gallic opposition was led by Vercingetorix, the one Gallic commander who could match Caesar in charisma and strategy. Against all odds, Vercingetorix had united the warring nations of Gaul in a last-ditch attempt to drive Caesar from the region.
Vercingetorix had really been pretty brilliant in pulling together a wide range of tribes to fight against the Romans. And he had thought he had a really good chance of winning. Vercingetorix was the last opportunity for all of Gaul to rise up and throw the Romans out.
This is really the only time that the tribes of Celtic Gaul, the southernmost, the wealthiest, and most politically sophisticated tribes, actually fight against Caesar.
It was the final showdown after 6 years of tireless fighting. Alongside his men, Caesar had faced savage foes and harsh winters. They crossed the Alps, the Rhine, and the English Channel. But when his campaigns first began in 58 BC, all Caesar knew was that Gaul was the post that would make or break his career. It was his best chance to realize his ambition and gain the glory and power he'd desired his whole life. Julius Caesar was born around 100 BC. He came from a noble family.
When you study Caesar, you first of all have to understand this is not a rags to riches story. Caesar was well connected. His father was a senator. He received the best education Rome had to offer. He was well educated in literature and history. He learned to use language brilliantly. He could command the Latin language better than almost anyone.
As a young man, he served 2 years in the military, and he won a civic crown, Rome's Medal of Honor, for saving a fellow citizen's life in battle in Rome's eastern provinces. It was a prestigious award that Caesar wore with pride. In 79 BC, he returned to Rome in civilian life. He distinguished himself in law and entered the three-ring circus of Rome's political scene. He rose through the ranks easily with charm and charisma to spare. He was a popular candidate who knew how to play a crowd, but his family had fallen on hard times, and every step forward put him deeper in debt.
He had enormous debts. Debts that he had borrowed from campaign contributors, I guess we would call them, from supporters of one sort or another, so that when he held lower offices, he could give the most spectacular gladiatorial combats, and people would be talking about what a great man he was.
In his 30s, Caesar was sent to Spain to hold an administrative office. While there, he came across a statue of Alexander the Great. Suddenly, the gulf between his ambition and his achievements was thrown into sharp relief.
And Caesar wept, saying, when Alexander was my age, he had conquered the whole known world. And here I am, and I've accomplished nothing. Little could he have known that in time, he would accomplish so much that people would speak the name Alexander and Caesar in virtually the same breath.
At the age of 40, Caesar ran for the highest political office in the Roman Republic, consul. With populist appeal and important connections, he won. While consul, he employed strong-arm tactics and threats of violence to push through his legislation. He ignored rules of order and forced bills to benefit his political allies. It was traditional for consuls to serve as provincial governors after their term of office ended, and Caesar looked forward to this assignment.
Caesar had a number of things that the provincial governorship could do for him. One, the simplest, is that while he was consul, he had done a certain number of acts that might have been called illegal. As long as you were a magistrate, you could not be prosecuted. And so he wanted to be out of Rome as a governor for that reason.
Most importantly, a governorship was a great way to recoup the expense of holding an office. Roman governors got filthy rich on loot and the labor of slaves. For Caesar, that was crucial.
He'd struggled to get to the top of the political arena in Rome, and now he needed to get money and prestige to cement his position as one of the leading men in Rome, if not the greatest man of all. He needed a war. He needed the military glory that would win. He also needed the money.
Caesar was initially given two provinces, one east of Rome called Illyricum, and the other in northern Italy called Cisalpine Gaul.
And then, through a stroke of luck, Julius Caesar was one of those people. It wasn't so much that luck came to him, but when luck came along, he was an opportunist. The governor of Transalpine Gaul died.
Transalpine Gaul was added to Caesar's charter. The neighboring Celtic nations were independent from Rome, but far from strangers. Centuries of war and trade had cemented alliances.
The rest of Gaul, all of central, northern, and western Gaul, the Romans called Gallia Comata, which means long-haired Gaul, which means wild and woolly Gaul. They did not have control over that part of Gaul.
It's a big mistake to think of Caesar fighting against Gaul, Gaul as a single nation. It wasn't. It was a whole range of different tribes, different peoples, different kingdoms, many of whom spoke the same languages and had similar cultures, but they were not united. So Caesar wasn't matching the might of the Roman Republic against a united Gaul.
In early spring of 58 BC, an Alpine people called the Helvetii began to migrate west toward Caesar's province. They hoped to resettle in western France, farther from German invaders and where the climate was mild. Numbering around 350,000, including men, women, and children, they left their mountain villages. What they couldn't carry, they burned. Returning was not an option. They appealed for rites of passage through Caesar's province.
Caesar told them no. They moved further north, where they were going to go through some allies of Caesar's. And of course these allies were very disturbed. There's 350,000 people, and there's going to be a little bit of damage done.
The Helvetii next tried to pass through the lands held by the Aedui, a Gallic people who had been allies with Rome for generations. This is the site of the ancient city of Byblos, the capital of the Aedui. It's located high on a hilltop and is typical of a Gallic fortified city. The best had a commanding view of their surroundings and strong fortifications. The Dutch walls surrounded the plateau for a distance of some 17 miles. Now, allied cities like this one provided a buffer for Caesar's provinces. Caesar intended to keep it that way. He chose to intervene and stop the migration altogether. Claiming he was acting to protect Roman allies, Caesar declared war.
Opportunities arose in Gaul for the war he needed. And as far as he was concerned, that was it. It was a war, the opportunity was there. He grabbed it with both hands and struggled to the utmost to get the money and the glory that he wanted.
Caesar ordered his legion in Transalpine Gaul to force the Helvetii further north. Then he raced to northern Italy to lead 5 more legions at breakneck speed across the Alps.
I will give up on you. I will give up on you.
For those
I'm gonna go get black paper.
with adventure in their souls.
I'm gonna go
Determined to unlock hidden treasures. There is a place like no other.
More than just a band of soldiers. A Roman legion on the move was a portable city with thousands of soldiers, their officers, administration, and support service.
We don't have a tremendous amount of precise information on the organization of the Legion of Caesar's day, but our best guess is this. It numbered roughly about 5,000 men, at least in theory. They were broken up into 10 cohorts of heavy infantry. Each of the cohorts was supposed to consist of about 480 men, commanded by 6 centurions.
He had transport officers that would know how to build a camp, would know how much food a legionary would consume. And so there was medical officers, there was provisional officers, there was camp officers. And you contrast that with auxilia, and these would be native troops, most often in the
Caesar and his legions caught up with the Helvetii at the Somme River. Commanding an army for the first time, Caesar's military instincts were about to be put to the test. In 58 BC, the Helvetii were on the move. So were the Roman legions. Caesar's troops moved with terrifying speed and closed in on the Helvetii at the Somme River.
Now, the Helvetii were crossing the river. When they got about 3/4 of their people across, they were amazed to discover that on their rear, here comes Caesar. He had made one of his famous horse marches, had fallen on the rear of the Helvetii, and manages to wipe them all out.
His responses are always extremely robust. Whereas perhaps other commanders might have been content with delaying or hemming in the Helvetii, Caesar confronts them and inflicts an appalling defeat on them and then sends them back where they come from.
The Romans continued their pursuit of the Helvetii across the river. There were now 6 Roman legions, about 30,000 men, tailing 260,000 Helvetii. The legions were waiting for a tactical advantage, holding reserves in the rear. As the pursuit neared Bivouac, Caesar took the opportunity to collect rations. The Helvetii took the opportunity to attack. Numbers may have been on the Helveti's side, but in military terms, they were no match.
They don't fight in ordered ranks, they fight in close order, but there isn't really any discipline. They're not a force where the chieftain or the king in command can issue an order and expect everybody to obey it very smoothly, which Caesar can with his disciplined legionaries.
The key to Roman military success is organization and standardization. What that meant was, even though Roman generals did not need to be excellent, it meant that all of the usual criteria for battle elsewhere outside of Roman influence, weather, size of the enemy, chance, individual genius, it could all be trumped by a system.
Roman cohorts were armed and equipped as heavy infantry. That meant they could do damage at a distance or up close and personal. Each legionary wore ring mail armor, a helmet, and carried a full-length shield. He was also equipped with a pilum so that he could do damage at a distance. And this is a special crafting. It was designed to bend on impact with a body or with a shield. If they hit a shield, they were rendered useless, so the enemy couldn't return fire. And every legionary carried another weapon that was even more lethal. The gladius was a double-edged short sword. It was kept razor sharp and could be used to stab or to slash. It featured a raised ridge or fork that ran the length of the blade to give it strength. Now, the legionary was deadly when he was up close, especially against an opponent who might have a longer two-handed sword and couldn't carry a shield. With sophisticated weapons and training, the Romans won the battle without even bringing in their reserves. About a third of the Helvetii escaped into the woods. Thousands more were slaughtered or enslaved.
And so in this case, we have this people, the Helvetii, confronted by a trained army. And they are cut down, and they are severely defeated.
Later that same year, Caesar faced a more personal test of his command. With the Helvetii driven back, the Gauls came to Caesar and asked his help in freeing their lands from a German warlord named Ariovistus.
It's a little hard to know what kind of person Ariovistus was. According to Caesar, he is boastful, arrogant, and very, very self-assured. He was invited into that region of Gaul in support of one Gaelic tribe